And welcome to the Thunder Rooster Podcast. My name is Ron.
And I'm Paul.
And today we're going to be tackling a subject that involves a book that was written back in the 40s, I want to say?
1949.
1949. So it's basically going to be over the book 1984 by George Orwell, which isn't his actual name, but I don't have it in front of me right now, so I can't say what it is. So I shouldn't even have brought it up.
It's okay.
But before we get into that, we have a winner on air.
Winner, chicken dinner.
We have a winner on our name for our ghost. I'm really happy about that. We had a few submissions for names, and they're all pretty decent. But I'm going to have to say the name of this guy right here is going to be, drum roll please, Booster.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Manny. We'll be sending you out a shirt your way, buddy.
Yes, indeed. Thank you again, bud.
Yeah, looking forward to doing many more paranormal episodes. They're just fun, you know. You kind of get, I kind of understand the having fun of getting scared. I guess, you know, I didn't understand it for the longest time.
Nope, I'm still scared shitless, but I still keep coming back. It's just, it's intriguing, I guess.
All right. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and if you're an Apple user, head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and leave a review for us. That would mean the world to us, and that's the only way we can grow our channel. And just tell your friends about us.
Works for us.
You want to go ahead and kind of give us a little rundown on the book 1984? Sure,
but what we're going to do too is, our episode is not going to be all about 1984.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention that.
It's okay. It's been a long week. The snow got to him.
Oh, fucking A.
He hated it.
It is snowing today. Woke up this morning. Mind you, we've had really awesome temperatures for the past week and a half. Yeah. And I opened the door this morning.
Oh, man. Bless you.
Excuse me.
Old man Winter got you.
I opened the door this morning. Took a step outside, saw that there was snow everywhere, and the first things that came out of my mouth in the morning was, "Fuck you, Ohio." I'm done with snow for the year, all right?
That's not how it works, man. You get your last blast right around here, maybe May, maybe July, for all we know.
Good Lord.
But
that would suck.
Yeah, so maybe this was the last one and it's past us.
Yeah, hopefully.
So we'll move forward off of that. Fingers crossed. So, as I was saying, yes, we are going to discuss some of 1984, but we are going to discuss about what the umbrella means.
Yeah.
In a sense. So, first off, as my friend said about George Orwell in 1984, here's the book. And what I will say, and this is my opinion, this is the most important book of your life. If you have read it or haven't, it can be kind of interesting, a little bit boring, but this is today. This is 2021 right here.
Yes, it is definitely scary that something that was wrote, late 40s, early 50s kind of area, how much of it can be related to what's going on today.
Of course.
It's almost as if the powers that be decided to use it as a freaking manual. What to do.
Pretty much. You could probably say that. Yeah. So this book it's a sci-fi novel.
Yeah.
Is the first indication. So I'm not going to go into super detail, but just the idea of what we are discussing is that this takes place in 1984, where the civilization has been damaged. Okay, by World War, civil conflict, and revolution.
The civilization?
Civil conflict, revolution, and World War. Okay. Civilization of 1984.
Gotcha.
And basically, under these conditions, it's a totalitarian state.
Right.
So what that means, basically in a nutshell, is that this one unified power or government, if you will, basically is controlling the ideas of their citizens.
Right.
So they are called the party. How original, right? And basically to purge out anyone who does not follow with the belief of the party.
Yeah.
What does that sound like today? And it's used through different mediums, but they mention what is called the thought police.
Yeah.
And these are obviously officers in the superstate of Oceania. And just to kind of confirm what that actually means is they had options of, they had a telescreen where they could look at you and see what was going on out in their, in the battlefield or in their any type of building. They were monitored 24/7 with recording equipment, and even to the point that they would even try to get the thought police to insist on if the person had like a negative connotation or a thought to what was going on, they would try to take that out on that person. Meaning, like, a good example of what I'm trying to explain is there's a movie called Minority Report that had Tom Cruise in it.
Yeah,
and it was basically where they kind of were judge and jury and basically had a court hearing before something even happened. But they could see into the future. That's a little different, but the party was more concerned about trying to keep their citizens in line.
Yeah.
Follow suit, right? Which we're kind of get a lot at this point. So the information that comes out on there is it's, you have this unified party or this one person overlooking everything is the big brother. Or you might have heard the saying, Big Brother is watching.
Right.
The eye in the sky, the surveillance state. So all these things that came about in this novel are coinciding with today.
It's so interesting how something that far back, they're talking about TV screens on the wall.
Yeah.
And, back then they had TVs that were in gigantic boxes that weighed 1,000 pounds.
100%, yeah.
And just so much of that book, it predicts so much of what we're going through right now.
Right.
And it's crazy. I mean, I didn't make it through the entire book because it was depressing.
It's depressing. It is kind of, there's a couple parts in it that stagger, like some books.
Yeah.
The movie's even worse. I mean, I watched that in school and it dragged. It was an older movie. It dragged. Not really the greatest acting, but the whole idea behind it is terrifying.
Yeah. Truthfully
terrifying. Now, with 1984, obviously the whole term Big Brother comes about, surveillance state. Do you kind of recall, like, because we kind of really didn't mention this, but did you have any thought or notion of something to this extent? Like, what was the first thing you might have saw or watched? But basically the same thing. The first thing you saw or read, maybe, that had to do with this idealism of complete control?
Like a tyrannical government type situation.
Yeah.
Mostly it was like, I guess when I got into the conspiracy world is really where that started to shine. My first documentary thing I ever watched was called 2 Cents, or it was either called, Loose Change.
Okay.
That's what it was called.
Sure.
I don't know why I get that mixed up all the time. But yeah, Loose Change was the first thing. And of course, that's a documentary over the 9/11 attack. And, there was a lot of stuff involved in that definitely raised a bunch of questions in my mind. So that, part of their reasoning behind it being like, I guess you could say an inside job is, that kind of control and that tyrannical government type situation. So that was really my first kind of introduction into that kind of side.
And you never thought about any of that kind of thing beforehand. You were like,
didn't
even think that, what you were told is the truth and we'll just live by that.
Right. Mm-hmm. But I'll be honest with you. The morning I saw, that the towers got hit, well, I should say later that day, because I didn't even know what the Twin Towers were.
Right.
That day until I found out later on the news. But just seeing what was going on that morning, I was like, buildings don't fall down like that. Like, and this was before, like,
before any of the, documentaries or anything that came out after.
Yeah, I was literally in my sophomore year of high school when this happened. I'm watching this. I'm like, I wonder why they demolished the building. Aren't there still a lot of people down there? But anyways, that was my first introduction into that world. And then it kind of spiraled even further along, probably about 10 years later. But when I watched Zeitgeist, that is a documentary that tackles like 3 or 4 major things, just take you down a rabbit hole each way. You got to be careful with some of the conspiracy theory stuff.
Absolutely, because again, we want to stay on. We don't get shut off. Okay, all right. Yeah. This is all allegedly. These are all things that have come about allegedly. But Zeitgeist was one for me as well. I can go into that in the next break if you want, but the first thing, so since we are going to talk about Zeitgeist, we'll do that next break.
Yeah.
So the first one for me was, as some of you may know, I went to college for journalism. My first journalism class I ever took, with not knowing anything about news, I ended up, my professor had us watch this documentary called Outfoxed. And it is on YouTube. You can also buy it or rent it. It's basically, now looking back at it, it came out in 2004. But looking now, seeing it, it's basically a slander piece. Yeah. Okay. The show is called Outfoxed. At the time, Rupert Murdoch was and still is a very rich and powerful, successive businessman. He had a lot of television stations. He had radio stations, newspapers, all of everything. So what the documentary entailed was you had a lot of former employees, either of their organization or other news outlets, that made a lot of complaints as far as how the news was being reported. See, I just thought in the sense that you would have a news director, you'd have your anchors, you'd have your field reporters, and you meet every morning and you talk about what's going to be the topic of the day.
Oh, no, you can't do that because everybody's doing that. Now that we have over 100 gazillion different news agencies all clamoring for the same spotlight.
Right?
You can't be having the same thing on every channel.
No. So it was like, okay, I get that. And then what I started to see was there were these little excerpts from different news articles. And it was the way that the stories were being addressed. Like, just as a side example, like during kind of like when we kind of had the war going on, it was like, connotate, was this a sharpshooter or a sniper? Because those are two totally different meanings for those. Which one would be more objective where it wouldn't be as fear-mongering as the other?
Oh, yeah. I guess you could say the trigger words,
right? Right. So it was not only that, then it was even the press memos that former employees, protected their identity with their, their vocal changes and say, this is what the memo was every morning. This is what we were going to cover. And then really, if anybody questioned it, they were out. Mm-hmm. So it was their way or the highway.
Right.
But in the same time, I mean, there were a lot of very rambunctious characters at the network. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Bill O'Reilly was one of them. Yeah. But you could see, like, just for the idea, he had a guest on and he wouldn't even let him get a word in. And he literally just called him. He said, well, you're coming up with these ideas that this happened to 9/11, but you're wrong and shut up and you shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But yet his whole point was to have a conversation, to have actually a news segment. Obviously, they were disgusted with the ideas of that they labeled the news network fair and balanced, when in theory it was one-sided. But I got news for you, ladies and gentlemen. Even though that came out so long ago, you could look at every news network and there is going to be favoritism to a certain party or candidate. Mm-hmm. And it does not matter. It's not going to change because lobbyists take care of their own. And those are the things that happen. So my mind was completely blown away with the fact that, because I didn't care about any news organizations. I was like, yeah, I want to get into news. So like here, we're talking about Fox, but it was everybody like from MSNBC, CNN, ABC, and they were all coming down on them. Whereas I'm sure if they made another documentary about CNN or whatever, other networks would come back on them.
Yeah.
So it's just a revolving door. But it was just really crazy to see, like, these are stories that you'd want to hear about. They said, well, yeah, we can maybe fluff these pieces, but then we need to stay to the core. Like, we need to be on the war. We need to be on Bush. And everything has to be to this message.
Right. It's interesting how the media is rolled out and stuff like that, and how we consume media. You know, you had newspapers, you had TV, you had radio at one point, and it was all owned by like 6 different companies. You know, it's like, how are you getting fair and balanced when it's basically the same people?
It's a monopoly
controlling the narrative and stuff. And that was a lot of stuff I had found out. You know, there's a Netflix documentary out called The Social Dilemma. Mm-hmm. And it goes through this kind of thing, you know. They manipulate the way they do algorithms and such, and get us to basically just feed off of each other's negativity just to draw us in more. So they're now trying to draw in as much people, just their attention span. How can we keep people on their phone looking all the time, kind of thing. Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Just want to wrap up my thoughts.
Yes.
We got briefly cut off there. But so what I was basically saying is, in I want to say an unconscious way, mm-hmm. You know, social media is kind of controlling us. You know, basically the psychology of everyone is being controlled by what they're pushing online.
It's scary.
Yeah. They can just control the narrative of everything.
And just saying, well, we don't like your viewpoint. And then they shut it down.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you have too many strikes against you, then you're going to get banned.
Yeah. Something needs to be done about that. I mean, that's too much power. Obviously.
Power corrupts.
Absolutely.
Absolutely corrupts. So as we were just, before we came to the break, we were talking about the zeitgeist.
Yep.
So you had mentioned that. Yeah, that was outside of me watching Outfox. That was the first one. And then once I kind of watched that, I was like a little curious on how everything else kind of goes about. And one day I just kind of came across Zeitgeist, the movie, had no idea what it was about. Started watching it. And it blew me away.
Yeah.
It blew me away. That opened my eyes to what considers conspiracy of anything that happened. Mm-hmm. From the point of money equals debt. Debt equals money. Just these ideologies. It's just, you know, even the banking system, I mean, was like, oh, yeah, here, you put money in a bank, and then what do? They turn around, they invest your money into something else, and it's just on and on and on and on.
The thing that blew my mind about the bank thing is, like, they take what money you have in the bank, and then they times that by, like, 10.
Yeah.
And then that's the amount that they're allowed to loan out.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's money out of thin air right there. I mean, I get how things work, but I mean,
kind of what we're doing now, right?
Yeah.
2 trillion here, 3 trillion there.
Yeah.
How are we as a society ever going to pay back that loan?
We won't. I think it's going to take some kind of like great reset or something where they just flat out one day and be like, all right, everything's going back to zero.
I mean, is that what we're about to walk into? You said the great reset, Ron.
I mean, yeah. I'm at more or less the debt section.
The debt section, right?
There's no way any of that will ever get paid back.
No.
Not a chance.
But that was just like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, didn't make me think about that ever. And again, for what it's worth, it's a documentary. It's basically a documented commentary. And just going off of that, there's things people do not agree about this.
Yeah.
They will fight you to the end.
Yeah. Well, basically every conspiracy theory.
Right?
That's the bad thing too, is like the conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorist has such a negative connotation to it, because like they paint that, like anytime you hear conspiracy theory, you automatically think, oh, that's crazy ideas, or that's a crazy person. You know, conspiracy in and of itself is not bad. I mean, look what happened to us getting the country the way it is now, forming in America. that was a conspiracy. Conspiracy happens.
I mean,
and
look
the
at
fact that we point this stuff out.
100%. Not to interject that, but just like think of the fact that look at tabloid papers.
Yeah.
Tabloid papers have had a resurgence for years. I was like, oh no, they're telling lies. Within the last 10 years or so, they've been getting it right over regular news outlets. That's what's creepy sometimes.
I couldn't tell you the last time.
I could tell you. I mean, I've come across things, but go on.
The last time I looked at tabloid stuff,
don't say like Elvis has been cited. Okay.
I was gonna say the Bat Boy thing was always something that caught my eye on the cover. Bat Boy has been cited,
right?
That's fun.
But that's creepy because you'd be like, oh, this is the National Enquirer. That these fluff pieces, it's just all a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Well, no, sometimes they get it right.
Well, I mean, like Alex Jones. I mean, I don't care for the dude that much. Like, I haven't listened to him for years, but man, he
doesn't have to yell at me. Like, I'll listen to what he's got to say, but everything's got to be talked to you like this, Ron. Let me tell you right now. Yeah.
Now, on a serious note, though, I mean, the thing that scares me the most about Alex Jones is the fact that he gets a lot of stuff right. And he talks about some really crazy crap. And it's one of these days, it's going to be one of those really crazy things that's going to end up being right. I mean, it's really scary. I mean, there's stuff.
No, I mean,
like Jeffrey Epstein, for example.
Right.
He didn't kill himself. But, Alex Jones was talking about Epstein and Bill Clinton and all that shit 10 years ago before this stuff started.
Before this all blew up. Yep.
Yeah.
You're right.
Like a long time ago.
Yep.
I heard the term, the whole Lolita Express, at least 12, 15 years ago. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein is a perfect example of the whole conspiracy thing. I mean, he obviously was in the pockets of some very high-powered people.
And he made a lot of money conning people too.
Yeah.
Fruit for thought. Yeah, but no, good point.
Straight from the
straight. But then going back to Zeitgeist, it was like the banking system. Mm-hmm. Then they went into the idea of 9/11.
Yeah.
And what really made me think, again, I cannot, this is our opinions, guys. But when I watched a section of it, I think it was the second part of the documentary, and they were talking about the way the buildings came down. I was like, okay, interesting. I'm like, well, steel, like a plane of this magnitude shouldn't be able to just melt to the ground. You know what I mean? Yeah. It hits where it's supposed to. It shouldn't be. But then they started having some other experts from demolitions. They started showing actual demolition buildings going down. Mm-hmm. And they were going down the same way the towers went down.
Yeah.
So then that makes me think and go, wow, that's really effed up if that was to be the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But as we had saw, it's like, the trade centers those are the toughest buildings in America. I mean, for everything. But it's like, it just was the idea of, wow, one or two people were like, yeah, I work in controlled demolition, and this is a classic textbook demolition case.
It wasn't one or two people. There's a whole list of all kinds of different people from different professions that will say, yeah, that's bullshit. Even to the point of the planes and stuff flying, right. For example, you got the crash that went down in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
A plane doesn't just evaporate and there's only little bitty pieces here and there. Oh, but you can find passports, and stuff like that. But
I was told the plane that came from PA
mm-hmm.
that actually flew over our school.
Yeah,
I didn't. People told me about
possible. Apparently,
because it's right. Yeah,
there is one conspiracy theory that one of the planes that hit the tower, actually landed in Cleveland. They trafficked off into I guess where the NASA area part is,
right.
Unloaded the people, killed them there. Apparently, I don't know. Some of it gets crazy, obviously, but use your discernment.
Right.
But yeah, there's all kinds of little things here and there. Then all of a sudden, there's even people, which I think is probably controlled opposition or something, or maybe it's just people just trying to be like, no, I have the answer. But I mean, the whole thing of saying like the planes really didn't hit the tower, it was all TV effects, blah blah blah. I was like, no. Now here's the thing with the Pentagon. I lived in DC for a while. There's so many cameras on the Pentagon, around the Pentagon, everything. Like the Pentagon itself is decked out in cameras. Mm-hmm. Even it being in 2001, they still had decent cameras. The only bit that you've ever seen of anything hitting the Pentagon is 1 or 2 frames.
Yep.
And the first frame looks like a point on the end of it, and then all of a sudden you see an explosion. All right. They legit went and combed the entire area of the Pentagon like it was a crime scene right after it happened. Like they're trying to pick up every little bit of piece of stuff that they can. Why would you do that? And why isn't there any video of a plane hitting the Pentagon? It's because a plane didn't hit the Pentagon. Now, what I think they might have done, because you don't even hear people saying, I saw the plane hit the Pentagon. I'm not disagreeing
with you one bit. I'm chuckling over it, but I'm like, that's how crazy that is.
Well, my theory is especially at that time.
Because I've never seen anything outside of the frames that you just mentioned.
Yeah. The Predator drones. They are massive.
Yep.
All it would take is that somebody to paint a Predator drone to look like an airliner and fly that thing in there, or attach like a missile to it or something. Because, I mean, if you watch that, you're going to see that there's so many details that are just completely thrown off to the side. Well, that doesn't make sense. If that hole is only this size, there's no way a big plane can go up. But what did? Oh, no.
It did.
I don't know. We'll have a 9/11 episode eventually. Mm-hmm. It's just a huge chunk. And we like to try and keep it light here. This is serious shit, guys. Yeah, this is not a doom and gloom podcast by any means, but I mean, you got to talk about this stuff sometimes. Yeah. But I don't know. 9/11's always been a little fucking pain in my ass.
And it was with that, and it was, Fahrenheit 9/11. It was like that whole other side, that was portrayal, what was said too. So it's like, it was alarming, because that was in Michael Moore's documentary that they had the Bin Ladens on a plane to safety.
Yeah.
That took a lot of time to digest.
My thoughts on the whole thing is, if 9/11 was not an inside job, it was at least allowed to happen. And I that's my conclusion over the whole thing.
I agree. It's just,
I can't fathom a country doing that to their own people, but at the same time, you had the government itself, like Project Northwoods. Mm-hmm. They had planned to try and down passenger planes just to get into war with Cuba. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibilities when you have actual documents showing that they were planning to do harm to their own people just to get into a war.
Because wars are profitable, Ron.
Yeah. And something else Zeitgeist also points out is the fact that every major war we've had, the bankers have been funding both sides. Wouldn't that be a little bit of a conflict?
That is definitely a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Hands down.
I mean, it doesn't...
Because they don't lose, they win.
Yeah.
They win regardless. It's like the house wins. Yeah.
That's the thing with this kind of subject. We can go down so many
pipelines. Yep.
Pipelines. Mm-hmm. And I just all of a sudden want to go on a tangent about international banks. Like, why the fuck do we have them?
No.
Seriously.
Right? It's like JFK. He even said, why do we have the IRS?
I think we should all just band together as a country, tell the international banking system to go fuck itself, and we all just make one of our own. Reset everything back to zero.
Our own unified currency. We make the decision.
Sure, why not? I don't know. I'm not qualified for that. But I'm just saying the current model we have will not last. And all it is it's the monopoly guy. He is just buying up every property he can and making all the money, and Everybody else is just peons.
And then we have sense of unity amidst 9/11, the coming together. Then it's like, this is the idea of the 1984 state. With the advancement of technology and security, there's also a loss of privacy.
Way to tie it back in, Paul. But yeah, seriously, the surveillance system, Big Brother. I mean, we've had whistleblowers. It was conspiracy theory all up until Snowden decided to go rogue and whistleblow. I mean, everybody thought people who were talking about this were straight up nut jobs. But all of a sudden, Snowden, he blows the whistle on it. It's 100% true. And he's now an enemy of the state, even though they try and be like, we need whistleblowers to come forth and we're going to praise them. What whistleblower that has come out in the past decade has been off the hook? I don't understand this whole point of like, no, we need that to happen. But as soon as it does, like, nah, nope, they can't find no quarter here. Pisses me off.
I just never understood I get the one side where the government felt that was a threat to national security, but at the same time, they're sitting there lying to our faces. People are sitting getting, their rights are being infringed upon, their conversations, everything, just in the midst to try to fight terrorism. But at the end of the day, they're spying on everyone.
Yeah.
And no one wants that. People, if you ask people individually, it's like, how would you feel? Oh, I got nothing to hide. Well, that's fine. But what if something comes about that it was a complete misunderstanding and they break in your house, to arrest you for something you didn't do?
Yeah, exactly. That, or you say the wrong thing in your own house and all of a sudden you're getting investigated by the Secret Service or something like that.
That's
fucked up, that's where we're headed.
It's fucked up. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's fucking crazy. My thing of it is like, this kind of thing happened in World War II with the SS and the Nazi Party. Yep. Like, obviously it wasn't to this scale because they didn't have that technology.
Probably happened to several other regimes amongst different countries. It's just how it goes.
But yeah, it was just the knowledge and information of all your citizens is very important. And now we have social media, and that can be... We can do the whole puppeteering thing with social media.
Remember, because before any of the social media came about, it was like you would rely on your newspaper or your local news or your national news on TV. Now the message gets brought so quickly, within seconds.
Yeah.
One posted TikTok or YouTube video. I mean, boom, everyone can get it.
Yeah.
So information travels so quickly.
Right.
That is just, it's mind-boggling.
All this stuff's mind-numbing sometimes.
It is.
At the same time, if you just shut yourself off to it, you're just opening yourself up to get victimized by this kind of thing. It really is. I mean,
right. But in the end, all the things that we have, you know what I mean? Was it for the benefit of security or convenience? We all got smartphones. A lot of us have smartwatches. Amazon Echo, we use Siri, all that. But at the same time, it's a service for convenience. But on the back end, they can listen to your conversation or see what you're doing. To some people, that is not a concern.
Yeah.
But to others, my rights are infringed upon. You shouldn't be able to bother me or disturb me if I'm not doing anything illegal. So why are you in there?
Yeah.
It's a tough question. It's a tough question to answer.
There's a famous quote by Thomas Jefferson, I think, that somebody who sacrifices freedom for safety deserves none. I probably just butchered that whole
Sounded pretty good to me, if that is the case. But
I mean, sacrificing your freedom for safety, I mean, you don't deserve any of that if you're trying to do that. But
we all thought, hey, we're, the Patriot Act, we're going to, when you go to the airport, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. It's a sense of security and safety for you.
Yeah.
And can inconvenience you on the side, but the inconvenience is for your safety.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Social.
We'll just have to let that marinate and let it be bygones, because again, this is one of those questions.
Yeah.
we don't know the answer. We just want to inform and hopefully, at the same time, be successful in what's about to come down. Because we don't know, my friend.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back and hopefully pull us out of this bummer of a conversation. All right, we're back.
Welcome back, guys.
I want to start us off real quick by correcting a mistake I made. It was not Thomas.
Just a little mistake, Ron.
It was not Thomas Jefferson who said that. It was Benjamin Franklin. And the exact quote is, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety."
Ouch.
It's true.
Yeah.
The amount of
Truth hurts.
stuff that we've given up since 9/11 happened is beyond ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't even travel the right way now. And I mean, how much has that actually helped us? I mean, I've heard the statistics before and it's not anything. How much money have we poured into this? I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but what we're going to do is we are going to get us out of the funk of this conversation.
We have the funny answer.
And we're going to go into our 3 shots at funny.
Do it!
Yes.
Every time.
Every time.
All right. So the first video that we have here is brought to you by my beautiful wife, Jessica. And she didn't give me a name for it.
Okay.
So we're just going to have to roll on this one.
Hey, babe.
What's up?
I once saw a woman with 12 breasts.
That's so strange.
Doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Oh, nice job.
That's wholesome and sweet. All right, Paul, you sent me yours.
Yeah.
What's the name for this?
Dry time.
Dry time.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to watch that again for observance. Yeah. I'm gonna have to see if my wife actually does this.
My wife kind of rolled her eyes when I put them out her. I'm like, polls are done.
Well, your wife and my wife both could tackle bigger bowls than that.
Give him the high.
All right. I picked this one out especially for you, Paul.
Okay.
I titled this one Denied.
Wearing number 1 for the Los Angeles Traffic today is 9-year-old Tommy Douglas. Tommy has lived most of his life in the hospital after being born with a potato for a heart and will undergo a heart transplant surgery next weekend. He's about as big of a traffic fan as they come, so in partnership with the Grant-A-Wish Foundation, both teams have agreed to come together and have Tommy run the first play of the game. And he got the handoff, and there he goes. Made a little cutback.
Go, buddy, go.
Like he's
So
going
go.
all the way.
He could go. Oh,
Go.
Look at him go.
Way.
Wow. This is
So
really
wholesome.
one of those heartwarming moments in sports
So
where you
heartwarming.
just...
Oh, come on.
Oh, my God. That
Not
was
up in here.
that is not good.
Is this for real? That's what I figured. Try to get me.
Look at
Can
him
you
go.
imagine, though?
Oh my God.
Can you
How
imagine?
bad the press would be
This
for
is
something
really
like
one
that.
of those
Oh, shit.
heartwarming
It's going
moments in
down.
He's like, I got
where
it.
you
I got
just-
it.
Oh, my God.
The crowd goes silent.
You're dead.
That is not good.
Hello down there. Oh, that's amazing.
Then, of course, probably at the end of the game, the the announcer was like, "Yep, number 25 has a blue Jeep. He'll be waiting in the parking lot.
I'll see you.
I'll see you in the parking lot, fool."
Oh man,
that's funny.
Yeah, I think Casper decided to kill my camera.
All right,
fucking Casper.
Booster. That was all Booster's fault.
Booster. Yes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you all for tuning in and listening and watching, because this was a little touchy, guys. Touchy subject. It's not what everyone wants to think about, maybe even talk about, but our piece of advice to everyone out there, it's like, you know what? Anything you read or hear, like, always question. Always ask yourself a question. Don't just assume what it is.
Yeah. Don't
find your own answer.
Don't be, kind of coerced into believing what everybody else wants you to believe.
Be yourself.
Make your own opinion.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't matter what you have to do to make that happen. Just don't believe everything. Question everything.
Yep.
I mean, that's just what you need to do with life in general.
Yep.
You need to have questions. It helps to get quicker at finding out what the answer is, but right. I mean, you just have to make that stride for yourself and others, hopefully. But yeah.
Just hope for good and bigger and better things down the road. Let's hope.
Yeah, hopefully, man. It's tough. It's tough to swallow these pills
people's
sometimes.
patience are being tested. I mean, a lot of things.
Yeah. I mean, especially lately with all the shootings and stuff that happens, and
on top of COVID, on top of everything. Right.
And honestly, the way that COVID's been how it's happened with our country and all the stuff, everybody's losing their jobs and stuff. And there's a lot of dark times ahead of us for that, because even after we get all vaccinated stuff out there and all of a sudden they say, okay, everything's hunky-dory. Well, there's still a lot of people whose lives have been ruined just because they haven't worked all last year, And unfortunately, as a country, we're going to feel that for a long time. It's just unfortunate.
It's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, it's nothing to laugh at, that's for sure. Well, yeah. Tune in next week. We're going to bring the spirits back up a little bit. I think what we're going to do for our next episode is we are going to pick out some comedians, a couple bits, and we're going to kind of react and also kind of break down on some of their techniques, I guess you could say.
That's going to be interesting.
I'm all right with that. But all right, everybody, have a good rest of your week. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Leave us a review on Apple Podcast. And if you got any ghost stories or anything like that, I'd like to hear them. Send it to info@thunderrooster.com. And yeah, stay spooky and whatnot.
See you next week.
Roosters out.
Roosters out. Peace.
Bruh.